Well, episode 62 is in the books of Dragon Ball Super, and there's a lot to talk about today. But unlike last time, it's not so much about the mystery of Zamasu and Goku Black. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into this video as I will review episode 62 and give you my predictions for episode 63. So let's start off with the plot. So starting off, obviously from the last episode, Trunks is fighting Black and Zamasu once he unlocked this super rage Super Saiyan form that we don't really know what it is at this point in time. But Trunks is fighting off Black and Zamasu, and he's actually doing very good at the beginning of the episode, but over time, when Vegeta obviously jumps in to start helping Trunks, when Trunks actually starts to struggle, we start seeing that the battle is once again turning into what it was in episode 57 and episode 56. Now the tide is once again turning, where they once again realize they cannot defeat Goku Black and they cannot defeat Zamasu. Obviously, Zamasu can't be defeated because he's immortal, and Goku Black is extremely powerful that gets stronger over time, as Vegeta explained. So Trunks pretty much tells Vegeta and the rest of them that they gotta go to the past, and the reason why I felt that scene was kind of weird at first, because although Vegeta was resistant to do it, the fact that he went through with it actually shows you that Vegeta has changed as he is. Because Vegeta was once, at one point in time, the kind of brash warrior who would rather die than run away, But in this case, because of, how Vegeta has earned a lot of respect for his son, and because of the fact that Vegeta has a family to raise, he kind of looks at the situation from more of a third-person perspective. Yeah, I can just fight here with Trunks and, pretty much get killed, to, prove my Saiyan honor, but if I go back, maybe we could come back, do something correct and actually fix the situation. And I think that was a great sign to see Vegeta's transition over time. So, Trunks is fighting him off, and Bulma, once they return back to the past, is pissed at Beerus. And I was actually hoping that Bulma would actually punch him or slap him, kind of like what she did in Battle of Gods, where, she pretty much slapped him, and then, Vegeta had the whole My Bulma moment. But she's mad at him because, Beerus was wrong about Zamasu and Goku Black pretty much, not existing in the future. And the interesting thing about all of this is that they all explained to Beerus and Whis, about the whole cases of Goku Black and Zamasu, and how, he's pretty much Zamasu who took over his body, and pretty much explained the whole situation that Whis kind of already projected. And I thought that was okay. It kind of felt at certain points of this episode that they just kept telling the same thing over and over again. So then they have to tell it to Beerus and Whis. Now they have to tell it to, the rest of the gang later on, which I'll explain, but it had to happen. So the interesting thing now is that we're seeing like a side scene where people are obviously being concerned. Goku and the rest of the gang have been gone for a few days. Chi-Chi's obviously angry. She cooked them a lot of food and Goku wasn't there. And in the meantime, Kid Trunks flies over to go check on Goten, and you know how Goten and Trunks are. They kind of like to go into missions brash, even though they're a lot weaker than Goku, Vegeta, future Trunks, Piccolo, and Gohan. They still want to get involved in the action, and that was a noble thing of Trunks, but it was just kind of stupid. It's like, if your dads can't solve this situation, what makes you think so? And obviously Chi-Chi saw them sneaking out, so, she goes over to Bulma. They start like pretty much talking about, everything that was going on. And it's kind of like a mother-to-mother conversation where like Chi-Chi's kind of like getting angry at Bulma because of everything that's going on. And she's also being stressed out. So you can't really call Chi-Chi a bitch or, really point anything bad at her in this instance, because she's really just a concerned wife and mother. So I can't really get on her about that. So while Bulma's playing stupid, Goku pretty much emerges, from the capsule core after, they obviously did like surgery trying to heal him up because he had like a hole in his chest, literally. And typical Goku, who jumps into the situation right after everything is kind of, on the fence between Bulma and Chi-Chi, he just says, "Oh, okay, this is what happened in the future," and he says, "Can I get something to eat?" And it's kind of like, it kind of broke the code that Bulma was trying to, kind of keep Chi-Chi off and, kind of keep it more reserved and quiet. Goku just opens his mouth and talks about it. And I think that was a cool scene, because Goku's that type of character that just is brash, just says his thoughts. He's this country kid, doesn't really care about social situations. He doesn't really know how to carry himself the way, you know, people who lived more in civilization do. So he just says it, and that was a cool scene, and he just said it so innocently. So the next thing that really happens in all of this is that everybody has a roundtable discussion about everything that's going on. Obviously, they once again tell the whole story about what's going on, and Piccolo brings up the idea of the Mafuba and how they can use this demon seal technique that Mu Taito used on King Piccolo many years ago, and obviously Piccolo would be aware of this because he's a direct descendant of King Piccolo, and they were also using this in the context of the fact that Master Roshi also used it to try and seal King Piccolo once again, but he failed. So he says, hey, you should really learn this technique, and you know, he was kind of preparing to teach Goku about this, but Goku's like, alright, well, I'm gonna go learn it from Roshi. So he kind of left before, you know, Piccolo actually got a chance to show him, and I thought that was kind of cool, but it did show you that we're now at a point of Dragon Ball where this episode showed that other characters have value. So Piccolo and Roshi, although in terms of power, they're a lot weaker than Goku and Vegeta and Zamasu and Goku Black and Future Trunks, they can teach him a technique that could actually work to defeat, or at least help defeat, the main antagonist at this point in time. And I thought that was really cool because it now shows you that it's not all about power. If you have a technique that can defeat your opponent, that adds a lot of value to, you know, the series. So that was a cool thing. So Goku goes over to Master Roshi to learn this Mafuba, and unfortunately for Umigami, or Turtle, he had to be the bearer of the brunt in this situation, where he pretty much had to take all of the punishment as Goku was pretty much messing up using the Mafuba. And the episode ends with Gowasu speaking to Beerus about the situation, and he pretty much is saying that, you know, obviously after they tell him the story too, like in this episode, everybody's pretty much saying everything that happened. Gowasu's pretty much taking, you know, the blame for it because Zamasu was his apprentice, and he says he'll do something about it. This is interesting here, guys, because Gowasu is a character that you wonder how he can really affect the situation. If they can't use the time rings to really, you know, if they can't really, you know, as gods go towards, you know, different timelines and trying to alter it, that's obviously against the rules. You would think he wouldn't do something in terms of time traveling. And also, you would also think in terms of power, he can't do anything else. So you wonder what Gowasu has up his sleeve to say how he's going to try to fix the situation. But overall, moving on to the other parts of this analysis, the action sequences were actually somewhat cool. They weren't as good as, you know, 57 or episode 56 or even episode 61, but this episode reminded me a lot of Future Gohan and Future Trunks versus the androids, where they're pretty much fighting a losing battle. Like, you know that as Future Gohan continues to fight the androids, he's gonna lose. And it also reminded me of when Future Trunks fought the androids before, you know, getting the massive power boost, how he was pretty much fighting a losing battle once again. That's kind of what this showed me. He's just fighting to hold off, or, you know, kind of for pride and to, you know, fight against the opposition, but he kind of knows he doesn't have really much of a shot. But I did think that one thing I could really critique about the action sequences would be the fact that they kind of repeated the whole sequences of Goku Black and Zamasu shooting those energy blasts. They did it twice, and I felt that was kind of cheap. But either way, it wasn't that bad. So to move on to some interesting details, there was a small speck of blood that we saw earlier in the episode, where we saw Trunks pretty much hitting Goku Black, and you see him like having a scratch on his cheek. And Super has had blood, but it's been very, 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 I guess you could say, very, very limited in terms of how much they could show it. Also, another thing I noticed is that along with Ten Shenhan, sorry, Goku learned the Mafuba in a very short period of time. If you guys remember back in Dragon Ball, Tien learned the Mafuba kind of by just observing, you know, Master Roshi while he was kind of like, you know, while he was kind of knocked out, but like kind of in a trance as he's kind of watching what's going on. And the weird thing is that by just kind of observing what went on, Tien kind of just learned how to do it by just looking at it. Like, Dragon Ball has a weird history of just having characters observe somebody doing something and then they just learned, like how Goku just looked at Roshi use the Kamehameha and then he just used it on the car. So I don't know, I thought that was kind of weird how Goku learned it so quick. And the last interesting detail is that it seems like Vegeta's gonna go back to train. I wonder what Vegeta can really gain if he's gonna deal with an immortal villain, and if he's also gonna deal with another villain who's that much stronger. But it's interesting to see that Goku and Vegeta have a contrast where Goku is kind of learning this new technique that could help and Vegeta's trying to increase his power. So we have two different ways where they're gonna try to solve the situation. So for our memorable moment of this episode, I'd probably have to say it was the turtle training sequence. I thought that was funny, how you see like Turtle's reactions as Goku's like spinning him all over the place. He's being sent through the ocean, he's being sent all across, he's like all over the place, and you know, he's pretty much being hit on the ground as Goku's trying to master this technique. And it's kind of funny because Goku really has nothing else. He doesn't have like a living organism that he could really practice it on, so I thought that was cool. So for our key discussion today, guys, after looking at this episode and looking at Trunks' eyes, it kind of seemed like Trunks' transformation is more of a rage boost than a new Super Saiyan form. The reason why I'm saying this is that if you look at the way his eyes dilated and then went back to normal, but he was still fighting at a normal pace, it's like his eyes aren't supposed to be dilated like they normally were. It's like it was just a temporary thing as he was getting into this, I guess you could say, this power up, but not necessarily a Super Saiyan form. So for our key discussion today, guys, what do you guys think about this Trunks form, honestly? Do you think it's a legitimate transformation because of how his hair looked and his eyes, or do you just think his hair and his eyes just reacted because he was so mad? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on that notion, guys, because honestly that's been something I've been wondering. So overall, guys, I thought this was a fun episode. I think it had a good mix of action. It had a lot of darkness in the beginning where we see them fighting Goku Black. It had a lot of resolution in the middle where we see pretty much everybody retelling the whole story over again. And near the end of the episode, there was a lot of humor watching Goku trying to learn the Mafuba and Piccolo trying to teach Goku the Mafuba before Goku even realized. He just goes and tries to learn it from Master Roshi. So because of how the characters had usage in this episode, how we see Krillin once again, how we see, you know, Roshi and Piccolo having an ability to actually impact the plot, I would have to say that this episode did a great job of bringing all the characters back. It kind of showed a little bit of everybody, and I really like that. So I'm going to give it 4 stars. I probably would have given it only 3 stars, and I would have said it was an average episode, but their usage of character interactions brought the rating up. So with everything else said, guys, let's go to our predictions, where it seems from the preview that Trunks is continuing his fight with Vegeta and that Vegeta is gonna somehow train in some short amount of time. And the weird thing to me, guys, is that even if Trunks has senzu beans, how is he gonna use them? Like, I know Mai has them, and then if Trunks really needs it, he can use it, but do you really think Goku Black and Zamasu were just gonna pretty much watch Trunks just eat senzu beans? Hey guys, hold up, I need to eat this senzu bean, you know, while you guys are trying to kill me. That doesn't seem like it's gonna work. But my prediction is that Trunks is gonna somehow use a technique or some type of thing to get away, and he's gonna hide with Mai, and he's pretty much gonna hold them off a little bit until Goku and Vegeta come. I think this sequence that we saw in the preview of Trunks fighting them, I strongly believe, and my prediction is that that scene is after Goku and Vegeta already come back, as you see Vegeta's already using the Gallic Gun. I don't think Trunks is going to fight them the entire time Goku and Vegeta have been gone, because it just makes no sense how he could last that long, considering he was already tired, and it's hard to just use the senzu beans in the middle of the battle. So with everything else said, that's been my predictions and my review for today. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'd really like to hear your thoughts. So please remember to rate, comment, and subscribe. And remember, as I always say, to have a great day, guys, and I am stoked for the next episode.